All right, y'all. Not even gonna lie to you. I'm a little nervous for this one because there's some smoke. George Pickens to the Cowboys. Smoke, tweets, and receipts. You're all gonna understand here in just a little bit why I said what I said at the very beginning of this video here, but nevertheless, these are exciting times. You know, let's unpack it, okay? Take it step by step with the understanding that just a few short weeks ago, I was mocked for a trade, a hypothetical trade that I concocted in my hypothetical sandbox on cowboyscountry.com, having fun, getting people to think outside the box, and just honestly trying to separate ourselves from the inevitable and seemingly overwhelming draft fatigue that we were suffering from leading up to the draft. Once again, a fun hypothetical trade. I think people either misunderstood, they misquoted, they misread, they didn't read at all before they jumped to conclusions. I don't want that to bog any of this situation down here. Like, who knows what's going to happen? Let's parse through the tweets. Like, why is there smoke? What do I mean when I say that? Okay. Connect the dots. Here we go. You have CeeDee Lamb. With this tweet right here that you are about to see. Pretty telling to me. I mean, you guys be the judge here. But this is definitely smoke. All right. George Pickens, just for those who are unaware, 24 years old, contract year, former second round pick, entering year 4. Highly polarizing player because of his physical skill set, has a bit of an off the field troubled past in his days in college, which is probably why he slipped to the second round in the first place. Let's just say he's incredibly passionate on the field. But as I mentioned weeks ago, whenever this all, sort of at the precipice of this entire discussion, me and my hypothetical sandbox with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Dallas Cowboys pick swapping ones as the nucleus of the trade with George Pickens included. The nucleus. You'd like to think that maybe, just maybe, George Pickens would be a little bit less animated, frustrated, if you had a little bit more of a stable quarterback situation. Wouldn't you think? The human element, sports psychology, an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, with regards to Dak and Micah Parsons, and their new locker room situation, spearheaded by Brian Schottenheimer. Let me fix the screen here. Getting a little passionate. Like I said, I just got this feels like an out of body experience, guys. I'm sorry if I'm not coming off as my usual self. It's also what time is it? 1:35 in the morning right now. So it just goes to show you we're working, always doing my best to creatively convey the sports below the surface truth. By the way, this is Lando from the Lando Show if you're new here, and this is also Sports Below the Surface.
I am inevitable.
So dang tired, I almost forgot my introductory pleasantries. Okay, the tweets. That's enough of the background banter. We have this tweet here from CD Lamb. This is what first caught my attention, so I'll speak to it in this order here. CD Lamb, just waving hello. Right? And then you get this one. Slick Rick, who has, let's just say, a bit of a reputation for predicting or breaking news on specific trades. Former insider is in his bio. Verified account, got 28,000 followers. People definitely don't just brush him off when he says things. All right. By the way, I'm unfamiliar with this. I'm not much of a TV guy. I never have been. I'm still, I'm 30 years old, so I don't know how old this show is here. So y'all are just gonna have to throw me a bone on this one. But apparently, this man's name here in this particular television show is George. So that's that was just reading some of the tea leaves right there. Going through some of the comment section. And then, you go, interest gets piqued, right? You continue scrolling along and then you stumble upon this one. So you have Cowboys player, you have anonymous source, and now you also have source from the Pittsburgh side of things, Mr. Nick Faribaugh. Steelers beat. At Penn Live, host of Steelers Breakdown, offensive line enthusiast, PFWA member. Email inquiries infera2000@gmail.com. That's his bio. 32,000 followers. Initially, he says, what's with this Pickens to Cowboys noise? Because it was clearly making its rounds, right? CD, of course, chumming the waters. Nick says, at first, right, hadn't heard anything yet, kind of keeping things a little bit quiet. Full disclosure, I haven't heard anything about that tonight. But then, an hour later, okay, he says, I poked around more for you guys since I had many questions and DMs from people. It seems there is some smoke here. And I think I'm going to get my guy Nix up in here too. We will, I'll send him that link, assuming he's still watching. And get his thoughts here on this situation. Smoke, tweets, receipts. Lots to unpack here, guys. So just bear with me. I'm breaking it down step by step. I've actually caught heat 3 different times now for the things that I've said based on the meta-analysis, the tea leaves, the sports below the surface reporting that I have done, all rooted in truth, my objective truth, and then a sprinkle of a little bit of a hypothetical sandbox in the meantime. Something in the pipeline. My words, about 3 months ago, mocked. Cowboys should go offensive line at 12, or at least they'll very strongly consider it. About 4 to 5 weeks ago, mocked, borderline defamed. And I don't take it personal, guys. Like I said, bygones, I forgave, find a silver lining and move on, right? Not everybody's the human element of sports media is also overlooked and underappreciated, I would say. This should be fun. Like, this is exciting stuff. Assuming this is real and it's not just smoke, shouldn't have to be sitting here parsing through all the politicking or whatever it is that you want to call it, just because you haven't heard of me yet. You don't know who I am. You assume or you jump to conclusions, right? And you flaunt your national media credential. Just a valuable life lesson to all of us here. I think, like, at the very least, just think twice before you speak, especially when somebody else's name who sacrifices countless. It's freaking 1:45 in the morning right now. My daughter's asleep in my bed. I want to go sleep with her. I do the work. I'm really about this. I sacrifice sleep. I sacrifice quality family time. I sacrifice, in some cases, moments with my family that I'll never get back because I got to grind. I got to do this. And that's not to toot my own horn. It's just to tell you that I don't take this lightly. And when you start messing with my name, my last name, that my daughter will eat off of, both of my daughters, third kid on the way, that my wife and I are constantly finding ways to try to figure out how can we spend more time together. I take it seriously. But I'm a nice guy. And I let it slip, or I let it slide, I should say. But I don't have to treat it that way. Okay, so valuable lesson. But now this is exciting stuff. The Cowboys, they all this talk about wide receiver two, wide receiver two, wide receiver two. Why the heck did they not draft one after? It's like you really need a guy that's going to be a difference making wide receiver two that's going to overtake or just elevate your room past Jalen Tolbert or Jonathan Mingo or whoever. The Cowboys don't even so much as throw a dart at it in the draft. But a logical perspective would be, okay, they pass in round one. That's when you're truly going to guarantee that, in all likelihood, based on your evaluation, right? The mental part is what we can't measure. That's the most important part. Physical traits get you to the league. Mental traits keep you there, blah, blah, blah. You've heard me say that a million times. But past round one, there wasn't a ton of guys that ask any expert was confident that could eventually become a true number one receiver. So that means with that logic in mind, that also means that it would be pretty difficult for most rookies this year, based on that knowledge, to instantly be an impact, game-changing wide receiver two. So it was natural to speculate they didn't take one at all. So something must be in the pipeline. Let's get to some of these comments here, see what you guys are talking about. And thank you for tapping in with me. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, because like I said, guys, these are exciting times. Who knows what happens? I may be the fool tomorrow. I got duped by Slick Rick, CD. Oh, and I didn't even mention the guy that honestly deserves no introduction. This right here, Nick Harris. This is when I really knew. This is when I really knew that there was some serious smoke here. Nick initially said 2 hours ago, it's not happening. Everybody get out of my mentions about this and let me enjoy my night. followed up with, I'm taking it all back. George Pickens, the culture fit. My initial thoughts, and once again, I'm gonna skip over this because I don't want to delve in any more into the ugly stuff that I unfortunately have to try and make sure that I'm real about. I'm trying to be transparent with you guys. When George Pickens may have certain imperfections, right? As we all do. All along, I have said it's about physicality because once again, people sort of misquoted, or I believe, I personally still strongly believe that when Shotty said building from outside to end, they failed to either listen to the entire interview or they just weren't listening. It was in one ear, out the other. When the first four things prior to mentioning outside in was physicality, toughness, big, physical, run game, toughness, trenches. Every coach, every interview mentions that. They all have. They all did. They still are. What did he say in the pre-draft presser the day before? Maybe it was Tuesday. I can't remember if the pre-draft presser this year was Tuesday or Wednesday, but he said, yeah, speed matters. It's speed is a big thing, but it's not the only thing. Massive caveat to that statement. Speed matters, but what's the person behind the player like? What's the physicality like? How much does he love football? George Pickens, you don't have to question the last two. It's fair to question the character. But once again, let me ask you. Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson. When you have that level of dog in you, but the odds are stacked against to even so much as have a down the field target on a week-to-week basis. Maybe, just maybe, you be a little frustrated too. And I get it. His character concerns predate his time in Pittsburgh. I'm not a fool. But he's 24 years old. You're going to define somebody for their mistakes that they made when they were 17 in college at Georgia? I told you guys 2 lives ago, I was 27 years old before I really learned what it meant to be a pro. And guess what? By that point, it was too late. Because I was an undrafted free agent that signed for a bag of potato chips and a bucket of baseballs and a plane ticket. And I took home a $700 signing bonus after taxes. And long-term investment, regardless of how good I was. If I didn't throw 100, or if they didn't have 100,000 plus invested in me, which they didn't, I was gone. And before I forget, thank you to the official partner of the Lando show here, Waggle. Get your waggleon.com code Hazel10. Put up that QR code for you. You guys can scan it. Get you some Waggle merch in honor of this we hope is yet another signal, a virtue of a changing tide, a turning tide, the pillars of change that I've been reporting all offseason long, catching heat for. Lando, you're just a damn sucker. Kool-Aid sipper. Fake news. Troll. Let me send my guy Nix this link. Y'all a little bit of background music for a second. Stay with me. We're not going to bed yet. Just getting warmed up. I was about ready to knock out. And then I get a few text messages. People want to know what's going on. Well, now you know. Hope you guys are having a great day. I feel better. I got some things on my chest. I hate those situations, man. Like I said, I'm a nice guy. I don't like confrontation. I try to avoid it, but I know how to handle it. I mean, I'm used to adversity, and I like to just try to breathe, talk through it. Like I said, think twice. Take my own advice. Think twice before you speak. I'm a methodical person in that regard, I guess. Nix, I'm coming, brother. Here we go. I don't know why this ain't letting me work. I'm honestly surprised my camera hadn't cut out yet, so don't be surprised if and when that happens. Here we go. Sending in 3, 2. Where's my guy at? Not my guy. Your guy, Nix. Here we go. Incoming. While we wait on him to hop up in here, let me get some of these comments out the way. I just got here. Who we talking about from Chris Johnson? George Pickens, guys. There's let's go through the rumor mill one more time. Tweets, retweets, and smoke, or receipts, not retweets. Tweets, receipts, and smoke. Got one from none other than CeeDee Lamb himself with a rather cryptic wave of excitement. We got Nick Fairbaugh on the Steelers beat in Pittsburgh. Okay, I poked around more for you guys since I had so many questions and DMs from people. It seems there is some smoke regarding George Pickens to the Dallas Cowboys. Slick Rick, rather notorious former insider with a decent track record of breaking news in the trade industry. Slick Rick at Slick Rick Scoops on Twitter. Yet another rather cryptic subliminal message of George wearing a cowboy hat. And then, of course, Nick Harris, Dallas Cowboys insider, on site at the Star. Plenty of connections. You are as plugged as he. He even walked back his own strong take that not happening, leave me alone. I'm trying to chill out here. Y'all quit atting me. He said, I take it all back. So there you have it. What could this compensation look like? So my initial parallel a few weeks ago, whenever I was wrongfully accused, I used the DK Metcalf trade compensation, ironically enough, that he, DK himself, now Pittsburgh Steeler. Nix, if you're still listening, let me know whenever you're in. I'll get you in. I don't see you backstage yet. But DK's trade compensation was a second round pick and then a late round pick swap. So naturally, I started there. He's here, he says. Oh, I see. Boom. So let me cut this off there. Big up here. So real quick, finishing up that thought before we introduce the man, the myth, one of my one of the OGs in the Cowboys content space. It's been honestly too long, but we're not gonna let it happen that long again between
That part.
DK Metcalf, I think ended up going for pick 52 overall. Like I said, all the work's written. I've got it typed up in more professional form, but we're just going off the cuff here because it's 1:55 in the morning.
Burn us some midnight oil. What a fun time. But I'm with you.
For basically pick 52 and a late round pick swap.
Right.
He's a little bit older
Hmm.
than George Pickens, but similar skill sets,
Sure, sure.
similar,
Needed a new contract as well.
yep, expiring
Mhm.
deals. You were going to have to pay twice. That's why most people peg the George Pickens situation not only unlikely, but damn near impossible relative to the way that this Cowboys organization historically has moved. But as you pointed out, Nix, and I want to hand the floor to you because that was such a fantastic point. I stumbled upon it a few minutes ago. If and when the Cowboys do make big splashes, historically speaking,
Mhm.
that was brilliant work out of you, and I want to let you just sort of elaborate upon that thought.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's something that I appreciated the trade deadline last year. And of course I got Mingo for what it's worth, but I'm not out on Mingo as some are, but neither here nor there. But and then prior to the draft this year, and even post draft, I said, look, ultimately underneath the Jerry Jones, side of things, and more relevant probably in the 2000s, not the 90s, although we can talk about Galloway. When the Cowboys make a move, a quote unquote splash that people want to see, it's predominantly from the wide receiver position. Some of that's a little reactive at times from them. As I'll walk through them. You had the Urban situation. They trade two firsts for Joey Galloway. It doesn't pan out, right? They trade a first, third, and a sixth for Roy Williams. And they went and signed Terrell Owens. Now, granted, you had to trade for him, but you went and signed him, right? And the head coach probably wasn't happy about that. You go into they traded up in the draft to go make sure they acquired Des Bryant, right? Then after they released Des Bryant and we're going to buy a wide receiver by committee, like, oh, this ain't working. Well, let's go send the first over there for Amari Cooper. You got the fifth round pick that they traded for Brandon Cooks in that offseason. You got the fourth round pick that you traded last year for Mingo. So sure, is there a Robert Quinn kind of addition? Sure, do you sign a Brandon Cooks at one point in time? Not Brandon Cooks, Brandon Carr, excuse me, in free agency. Sure, but ultimately, the larger quote unquote splash moves from the Cowboys is predominantly dominated by the wide receiver position in general when it comes to them, this front office in the 2000s underneath Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, and them typically wide receivers. So for me, as we're going through the process, obviously all the smoke that's around here, and we get from that side of the camp, not just over here or
A
whatnot,
lot
or
of
if you want to
smoke.
believe a dog, right? There's a lot of smoke now, even from the people that do a great job covering the Pittsburgh Steelers on that side. um, what I look at was, it was about Cooper, you're talking about Keenan Allen. Understandably, you needed to add a guy in the
Yeah,
room, right? You had to add a guy in the room. And the one things I talked about on Twitter, over the weekend and earlier this week, I was just like, Cooper and Allen raised the floor, obviously, of the wide receiver room, but I don't know if it's a stamp. We got a number two. And I said, for me, I'd rather them try to go do something. And then I just kind of looked at, and Lando, we try to follow the breadcrumbs, right? What's happening? How can we attach that to what's happening in real time?
yep.
And
Tea
what's the
leaves and meta
action?
analysis and breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Well, we go as soon as the draft wraps up. What did Jerry Jones say? That train hasn't left the station yet. Talking about acquiring a wide receiver,
Yep.
right? And then you
Substantive.
get right. Then you get to like Monday, Tuesday, right? In the greater Dallas area, you had a lot of people saying they're doing a lot of homework when it comes to wide receivers. And I said, guys, here's the thing: the deadline passed where it was signing a free agent would harm your comp pick formula, which the Cowboys absolutely love about the comp pick stuff, right?
Yep.
Well, I mean, okay, well, you can sign Amari Cooper or Keenan Allen or any other free agent for that matter, anytime you want to. All good. But why haven't they? Because they're doing other work. Those guys are available. You can get to those if need be, but you are still doing work on the backside, which gets us to where we're at 2 a.m. in the morning Texas time, talking about the George Pickens deal and where we are right now. But again, they've kind of told us, hey, the train hasn't left the station. Sure. And they had the conversations about Cooper. Sure. Some
Yep.
interest there on both sides. Sure. But all you had to do is say, well, here's the contract. Coop, here you go. Come on in. You're ready to go. Bygones be bygones. But they didn't do that because they were doing extra work. And that gets us to this point here is we're going to patiently wait till 7, 8 o'clock in the morning and see where this thing lands ultimately.
That's the thing, man. It like you said, and sorry about that. The camera work right there that just cut out. So we're just gonna go
That's
FaceTime
fine.
head up internal. Still working on this thing. But people have been following me the last few weeks, man, since I've been sort of, trying to expand a little bit the repertoire. They've been like, man, your camera's become the star of the show. I'm just trying not to it has become a part of the show. And I just keep telling them, try not to become the star of the show. As the star turns, I guess is what they say. Is what one your guy Nix loves to say. So shout out to you, man, for the rebrand and all that stuff. Make sure you guys are
Mhm.
checking one of the best in the business, and we work together a ton last year and even some prior to that, right? We kinda
Mhm.
got in one another, and we were like, "Man, this seems like almost it's just too coincidental to almost too good to be true," right? So we are like, "Yeah, we're gonna give this thing a run with PSF." And of course, things have just happened. I've gone a little bit my separate ways, but needless to say, this has been we're catching up again on good circumstances, man. But my whole deal was, like you said, it was totally fair to think about if you can't if the board doesn't fall to you the way that maybe some Cowboys fans had hoped, or the Cowboys themselves had hoped, having Tedero
Mhm.
McMillan graded slightly above Tyler Booker,
Mhm.
how many other chances are you going to have for a true difference making receiver to fall in your lap that undoubtedly checks all of your character and physicality boxes, but also upgrades your wide receiver two position? It was going to be a tough proposition, right?
Right.
But the fact that they didn't throw a single dart at it at all with any of their draft picks led one to speculate, okay, something really is in the pipeline. And it wasn't just that was part of the meta analysis, but once again, the breadcrumbs, the tea leaves, all those other things suggesting Stephen Jones cryptically saying, yeah, we're looking for a explosive wide receiver too. Jerry Jones dropping the substantive trades
Mhm.
bomb as he walked off the stage and headed for lunch, as Mike Fisher put it. I believe Nick Harris was one of the four men or women who actually heard him say that. So once again, establishing credibility here to Nick Harris, who said, maybe walk back on some of the things that I said a minute ago. It seems like there's some momentum here. Um, so where are you at? Okay, we know what we know
Mhm.
now about what Schottenheimer prioritizes and values with relationships, the person
Mhm.
behind the player, the character. Um, how much do you love football? We know that George Pickens is going to check the physicality box. He's going to
Mhm.
do things for you in the run game, and you don't really have to worry about his effort level. I believe personally, with in a stable offense with a solid quarterback foundation, the ball's not coming his way. There's plenty of evidence to suggest that he's going to do some dirty work for you in the ground game.
Right.
Plenty of evidence to suggest that he's also. It's for those reasons why you can safely assume football guy, right? Now, some of the sideline antics, some of the things of his past are what they are. Still, we're talking about a 24-year-old young man here. So
Just turned 24.
just
March.
turned 24, spring chicken, man.
Mhm.
Where you at though with just like, do you have any pause whatsoever with adding this to the room? Do you see it as a potential distraction? I know lots of Cowboys fans will. I'm I want to just leave that ball in your court for right now,
Sure.
and honestly, maybe just get some feedback from
Same.
people in the chat just to kind of see where they're at. But
No,
just
no, I think
talk to me about that part.
yeah, I think I mean, look, there's always risk reward in acquiring a player, and that whether you draft them or you trade for them, at the end of the day, have you done
Yeah.
your homework, right? What's one of the common themes throughout the draft process, for instance, was we want to know the player, right? They've extenuously everyone, whether it was Schottenheimer, whether it was McClay, even Stephen Jones. Hey, we got to get to know the player, right? We got to get to know the player, and that matters. And even at the rookie minicamp, for instance, just kind of I'll get back to Perkins, obviously, but you heard Schottenheimer talk about. I met with each guy individually. I'm not worried about where you start. And he mentioned some of the undrafted guys, but go out here and compete. And I'll notice, and the
Right.
player knows, but most important, your teammates will notice, right? You're elevating what's happening in practice. And even when his father said like his girlfriend's boyfriend or his girl, excuse me, his daughter's boyfriend says, I'll mention the names, like that's my guy. He goes, ain't your guy. You don't know him, just really hammering home how much the connectivity, right? The three season there, the connectivity and knowing them. So, what you would have to assume and how they've approached these things when it comes to George Pickens, if they do land him, is that they've done the homework there
Hmm.
and love football physicality. I think he checks those boxes mightily. Are there some things, maybe showing to a game late or maybe a little late for a meeting or something like that? There's probably some things there, but you're mitigating risk versus reward, right? As well, when it comes to that. A guy that's 24, I would think if they're acquiring him, you're looking to get an extension done, and you're saying, okay, Dak, for the next 3, 4 years, here's Lamb, here's Pickens, and we move,
Yeah.
right? I think is what they're looking at and things that they need to do, right? Because we talked about this a lot, Lando. Remember, we was like, I don't know about flipping that trigger on Dak's contract. You're starting a button, you're starting a timer now
Yep.
and then you have a lot of money. They didn't use the money. Well, that's the big thing I talked about today as we're going through it. I'm like, there's 37 million free. You get another 10 plus when you do,
You
excuse me,
extend
whenever you do Micah,
Micah.
right?
That's right.
Your
That's right.
your rookie deal is going to run you 4 or 5 million. You have the money. Now it's different, right? They're going to pay two guys, but they have the money because of what they did with Dak's contract to be able to acquire a guy that just turned 24 and pay him a contract to move forward. So,
Yep.
is there risk back to the risk reward thing or just risk in general? Sure, there's risk. I mean, but
Yep.
there's risk in everything. I think for Cowboys Nation and what we really talk about in general is the one thing that I think that's frustrated the fan base for over a decade, maybe even. I can't say that. Look, I think the Cooks and Gilmore trade, you felt like the Cowboys were trying to go and do something that they normally don't, but it was kind of a low risk. This is a bigger risk now. You
Yeah.
you're you probably get a little bit higher capital. You probably got a contract coming on the back end. There's some question marks, maybe, right? But he hasn't had a deck in the room though either. But boy, I'll
Exactly.
tell you what, I think what we can live with is you know what? Remember the all in from last year that everyone got so frustrated about and everything when Jerry said all in at the Senior Bowl and how that panned out?
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is an all in move, but you know what? Let me use a baseball reference.
Please.
The worst thing that I think we've hated from this front office of this organization is just striking out and not swinging the bat.
That's right.
Just not swinging the bat. At the end of the day, I can live with failure from the front office and everything if you swing the bat and try. And if this trade does come to fruition tomorrow, we can literally say, "Hey, look, they took a huge swing at this thing, and now we got to let it play out."
So let me elaborate just a little bit on that. And once again, for those who may have missed or just now joining in, please hit that like button for us. We got about 648 people in here right now. That's what I'm showing. So salute to Nix for being in here. We're running the midnight oil, man. 2 o'clock in the morning. You cannot doubt that whatever is required of us, we're gonna we're gonna make sure that we do it because my thing is it's the truth for the true fan. The sports below the surface truth that the fans, like the people that are in here hanging out with us right now, truly deserve. Okay, and you can't always get from your TV when you turn on what I call the fake take networks, right? So when you are we echoing? Is that me?
No, Echo, you're good on me. You're good on my ear.
Chat, how's the audio? Make sure we're good. I'll make
Please.
sure.
Yeah, so you're good for me, Lando, for sure.
Okay. This is why you take these sort of measures and you prioritize people, relationships, and character, and you truly sort of do the best that you can as a head coach to set the foundation for what you want your locker room environment to be like. When you move a Micah Parsons over to the corner of, the locker room that features the Dak Prescotts of the world, the Walter Payton caliber man of the years of the world. I touched on this in the video that I posted today, and I strongly encourage people to go check it out because I do believe that the human element of sport, the sports psychology, is the most underlooked. It's the most underappreciated and overlooked element of sports. But there's a level of accountability that occurs. You conduct yourself a little bit differently when you know that the captains on the squad are watching, are in your presence, are in your area. And I'm not saying that anybody ever had anything to worry about with Micah. All I'm saying is that you take the best on one side of the ball, the best on the other side of the ball, the captains, the leaders, if you will, you put them together, iron sharpens iron, right? There's accountability there. And here's the direct parallel that I want people to consider. I led with Dak won't let Micah slip. But Dak also benefits. You listen to Brian Schottenheimer as well. He confirmed this. Dak benefits from Micah's presence as well. There's a youthful energy with Micah that Dak will benefit from. There is a hyper competitive man in every aspect of his life. Listen to the stories about everything, Micah's background off the field, away from football. He's trying to compete. He's trying to win. And then, of course, yes, the other side of that coin is Micah will benefit from Dak's mental acuity, his process, the way that he prepares, his attention to detail. Why do I say these things? Are these just buzzwords that sound cute? No. Dak Prescott doesn't have an elite trait, ladies and gentlemen. He's won right here his entire career between the years. So I'm not just pulling that out of thin air. That's a guy who's been through everything life could possibly throw at you. In his family, just think about his family dynamic. I honestly makes me sick to have to say it over and over again, just because I don't, in the rare chance that Dak sees this, I don't want to remind him of his past, right? But he's been through it. He's walked through that fire. Mom, his brother, his own struggles between the years that he was open about and candid, that he had to work through and overcome, all despite playing under the largest microscope in all of sports, the most difficult and important position, nonetheless, while handling all these other things. Most people can't fathom the arena that he's placed himself in and that he has had tremendous success from within. So you pair those two things. It's a similar situation and dynamic with Joe Milton. All the physical traits in the world, alien-like traits. You combine that with what Dak can help condition into him from the way that he has had to win, hyper focus, mental acuity, over preparing at times. Why do Peyton Manning and Aaron Rodgers go out of their way to mention Dak as one of the most cerebral in the game? Do they just say that just for fun because it sounds cool? No, Aaron Rodgers, as we well know, he doesn't go out of his way to say anything nice necessarily for anyone, but he's as calculated as they come. So you load these are fail safes though. You're elevating, you're inundating your entire locker room, infiltrating high quality, high character guys in the event that something happens, because things inevitably do happen. These are alpha males. These are young, still maturing men, and these are guys that are hyper competitive. Things happen. Tempers flare. People screw up. We hurt each other's feelings. But your culture, your foundation of your relationships, right? It's why we don't stand up like the old school way. You know, you're going into sitting in front of a professor, in front of a classroom, like a
Mhm.
Coliseum style seating, and it's like one by one, stand up and introduce yourself when you're shaking, about to piss your pants because you're so nervous because you're not a public speaker and everybody's just staring at you. You are so over concerned with what you're going to say and what your delivery is going to be, but you fail because you're so nervous to recognize that all the people in that room are sitting there doing the same thing that you are. They're not even paying attention to a word you're saying anyway. So what does Schottenheimer do? Out with the old first 5 minutes. Hey, whoever's sitting down right now, stand up, change seats. It's a new year, new day, new era. And then towards the end, day one of rookie minicamp, we're not going to introduce ourselves one by one in a public speaking form, going through that public speaking gauntlet. We're going to do it a different way. We're going to engage human to human, man to man interaction. You're going to look me in the eyes. You're going to shake my hand, and we're going to get to know each other. We're going to be vulnerable. We're going to be. It's day-to-day interaction.
Mm-hmm.
What humans these days, in all honesty, because we're all so caught up doing this, I mean, it's what we need more of anyway. But he understands that. Shotty understands that in the event that you have a situation that arises, and I'm not just pointing the finger at George Pickens, I'm saying in general, because inevitably, George Pickens or not, you will have another bad apple in that locker room at some point. You will have things to overcome. But if your foundation is solid, you can replace the window. You can fix the door frame, right? You can have new appliances brought in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can get somebody to come take care of the lawn for you. There are ways.
Sure. And
But
I
if
mean,
you can't threaten teams out of a too high vision based shell in the run game, knock
just keep
knock
it
Tyler
six in the
Booker.
box. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you also can't have somebody that your MVP caliber quarterback can trust when teams inevitably elect to bracket CeeDee Lamb. Then you got problems on both fronts. This is the ultimate team sport here. Now you start bringing some of the nuance to the run game that we know Clayton Adams is going to bring, paired with Shotty's attention to detail, focus on character and relationships, as well as physicality. That's a beautiful world to live in. And then you go and stack. Let's call it what it is, man. Probably one of the best, maybe most misunderstood vertical threats, playmakers in the game with a top 3 receiver, undoubtedly. Cooking with gas, my man. I mean, you can't eliminate
Right.
both at the same time. So
Very true.
it starts to get real fun real quick. But I guess what I really want to hammer home is you're not going to have 53 high character guys who are physical and love football. But the foundation of your team is the failsafe that's built to withstand the inevitable opposites of that.
And let's make sure we're not painting saying that Pickens isn't a high character guy either, right?
Exactly. That's what I
Yeah,
wanted to make
let's
sure.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. We're not saying Pickens isn't a high character guy. We know there are some things,
Yep.
right, that maybe should have late for a game. Okay, maybe missed a meeting or late some meetings and stuff. Things that you need to clean up for a young man who just turned 24 is where it's at currently. But if you kind of look at since Shotty's been here, right? And you look at this draft and who he added prior to now, right? What was the thing? We get to the playoffs, we were out physicaled.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, there's a common theme in all these guys that they drafted, and I've seen certain people say, "Oh, he's changing the culture. Pickens doesn't fit that culture." I disagree, actually, because he's physical. He's
Yeah.
big. He loves football. That's culture defining things. Now, where he's rough around the edges, to everything you just said, brother, to everything you just said with the rough around the edges. Okay, he hasn't had a Dak Prescott as his quarterback.
Yep.
Right. And look, don't start with Mike Tomlin. We understand what Mike Tomlin is in this league and leader of men and what he brings to the table. Right. Not taking nothing away from there. But what you're looking from Schottenheimer and how he's trying to go about it, it might resonate a little bit differently for him. And that's what you got to do. As far as the player, that that checks the boxes big time for Schottenheimer culturally, and things on the field in between the white lines. And sometimes you can get a little carried away right in there. Okay. But now with the leadership group that we have here, can we round that thing out a little bit and get him there? And maybe he loves the game a little too much, and maybe that's
Yeah.
what gets him overrun some. It's like, hey, we just need to. You got it in fifth gear. We just need you to have it right here in fourth right now. Relax. But for me, I just think about certain things like Pickens on the left outside, and I got Mingo on the right with Lamb in the slot, even if you will. And I'm calling. Hey, I'm going to run the nine routes and crash outs, right? And when I'm talking about crash outs with Mingo and with Pickens. I'm talking them crashing up against those DBs and the blocking in the running game, right? And if not, we're non-routes or we're running past you, and Lamb's going to work that thing in the middle and see what you got. So, yeah, look, risk, right? That's where we kind of started this conversation, right? The question that you asked, and we've kind of come full circle here. Risk, sure, there's risk, but there's a risk in drafting Booker at 12. There's a risk in drafting Izaraku at 44, right? Because, well, maybe he's not big enough for strong side edge. What does that look like, right? Is there a risk at Rebel? The knee. What kind of risk is there? Is he going to be ready to go week one? You think so? So, I mean, there's always risk in talent acquisition. There always is. You try to mitigate the risk. You get people that match what your program is the best. You do things as you just talked about there, Lando, within the building, the connectivity, different things like that, and have those meetings and understand the player. No, because Schottenheimer said it very clearly. Oh, I have no problems disciplining them. And then the thing where he's diabolical when Machado was asking him about the locker room, and he takes a drink of water. Somehow, did they have was that their choice in the movie? You see him kind of smirk before he says anything. Go watch him smirk about it. And he looks
Yep.
up and goes, no, they didn't. We have a plan. There's a method to the madness. Moving around. So there's things beyond that he understands of how to get certain things out of players differently, but there has to be a common thread within those players of what he's looking for. And again, when it comes to Pickens, I think those things outweigh the risk factor. He's mitigating the risk of what he's getting in the player with the idea that what we have here, we can work and round out the quote unquote hard headedness, if you will, that people want to talk about when it comes to him.
Couldn't have said it better myself, man. That's fantastic work. And honestly, I just watching these Georgia highlights, it dawned on me too because
Mhm.
I sometimes forget that Matt O is also a Georgia guy, so I bet he would be able to provide some pretty interesting insight, more specific details and nuances of his whole
If I could
situation.
tell
And
you how much Professor O, since the draft when he was coming out all the way through, since he hasn't been here, and always let me know how much we needed a Pickens to
oh
now,
man,
when he wakes up tomorrow morning, he's going to be a pretty happy camper, I hope.
man, likewise, dude. I just hope, yeah. I mean, timeline wise, I'm struggling to like really connect all my thoughts here because I'm so tired,
Mhm.
man. But we're working through it. I'm just trying to sit here and think if there's anything else that we may be missing with all this stuff. What are some other factors to consider? Obviously, the contract, right? I mean, you're
Comp
not
and
trading for
contract. Yeah, comp and
yeah.
contract. Right. And you kind of were touching on that a little bit, talking about DK, where he came in with, was the second, I think it was a second
It
round
was a
pick.
two. It was pick 52 overall,
Right.
and then it was a late round pick swap. I can actually pull up the details. Let
Right.
me go ahead and make sure we're clear on those for
Right.
the
And
those who are listening.
the
We
other
want to be
thing
accurate.
too, which is funny because I talked about DK Metcalf. And I was like, well, look at the age. The Cowboys, what are we thinking here early in the draft process? Well, would y'all swap? Would y'all do a first round swap with Seattle? Maybe is that something I'll be interested in? I I know you kind of talked about that with Pickens throughout the process as well too,
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So kicking around the ideas of what we could do, not do. From that standpoint, I think though, here's what I always, for me, when it comes to the comp here for Pickens, would be that I think during the draft, I don't think they want to move on unless they got maybe a day two pick. And I don't think the Cowboys or nor any team, right? Because one of the Pittsburgh guys, if I'm not mistaken, talks about he understands that they tried to trade him a lot during the process. And
Right.
maybe that fractured the relationship even more than whatever it was at that time. forward that a little bit further. Now the draft just came and went. To me, I don't think you get the same amount of capital now, right? Because now you're in the like. Remember when the Cowboys were just ready to eject Cooper? All right, here's the fifth. Congratulations. I think that's the same thing here. They're ready to eject now. The draft just came and went. What's really going to happen here, right? Teams are said it is what it is. Now, I'm not saying the Cowboys are about to sit here and trade a fifth and get him, though. Be clear for a 24-year-old and where it's at. I feel third round is probably in the realms. Um, maybe something, maybe pick swap a little bit later as well, like kind of the DK deal, right? What was that
Yeah.
DK deal?
So that's it right here. Is DK's was a 4-year, $132 million extension, which made his official contract 5 at 150. But it
Right.
was a second round pick. So
Mhm.
in other words, the Steelers got DK Metcalf in a seventh,
Right.
and the Seahawks got a second round pick 52 overall, and a sixth. So it was a sixth and a seventh round pick swap, and then DK for a two.
Okay. So
And
you might see
that was
that.
the exact starting point for my whole
Right.
that was my entire
Hmm.
analysis was just, all right, that makes sense. It's ironic that it's also a guy who's now on the same team as George Pickens, but that sort of
Here we
compensation
are.
as far as draft capital, the
Hmm.
because you got to pay twice, right? So the payment to
Hmm.
acquire, I just pegged them as similar players, similar skill sets, similar upside. Like it just made sense to me.
Right.
My question, my concern, the only caveat, I guess I would say, would be, once again, there's just maybe a couple more question marks with George Pickens that would maybe that draft capital, that compensation will be slightly less. But I think you're right on point, man. With the day two compensation, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. I
Um,
think it's day
been
two.
highly
Look,
productive, even despite
they're
a
cool.
non unideal quarterback situation. That's where he was
Right.
selected overall in the
Hmm.
first place, anyways, on day two in the second round. So
I think
just
it's
seems to check out, man.
yeah, I'm thinking third round pick. I wasn't really thinking about a late round swap like the DK deal, but maybe let's throw that maybe that as well. Maybe that's what it'll be. Maybe they swap a sixth, seventh, maybe third, sixth, and then maybe swap a seventh, perhaps, maybe. But I feel like the highest of the pick, however it breaks out, I think it will be a third though. I do 24. Got to get the contract now. I look, the Cowboys could roll the dice and play the game, right?
Yep.
Because if he comes here, he performs very well. If he leaves to go get some big contract in free agency, which we think he would, you're going to get a pretty high comp pick back. Very well could be a third round comp pick back. So they
Right.
could roll those dice. They could. I wouldn't want them to do that personally. If we're giving up a third and then we're swapping some stuff on the back end, let's get the deal done. And I've been very adamant about this through free agency. I want to see longer deals through the draft. Let's get something where you have the new regime where they can sink their teeth into things. I think Dak has to be probably hitting the table a little bit, say, get me a bona fide weapon for this next run of my career, right? And they can get if they get Pickens, get it a third and whatever, okay. And then you go out here, give him the deal, and look, for the next 3 to 4 years, you're gonna have Dak, Lamb, Pickens, and go figure this thing out.
What do you think? What do you think you extend him for? So DK is just doing the math. 4 for 132. 132 divided by 4 is,
I don't
I
think
think
he's
it's
gonna
about
get that
right.
much. He won't get that much because
33 a
DK
year. Yeah, it won't be that high.
no, DK's done more. I look. We talked about this earlier. I think it was late last week. A little bit. I talked about it on Friday. 22 to 25 per. That's probably where this thing is. Because
Sounds fair.
we're looking at DJ Moore's deal right now. He just signed the extension, and it's right around 2021.
Yep.
Um,
That was
certifiable
last
number
year, by the way.
two.
DJ Moore's
Right.
extension. I just
This
studied
last year,
that
yeah.
situation yesterday. Yeah, that
So
was 2024 when he did that.
right.
So
So when we're talking about the numbers, right, this is where you got to separate the business from what you want to ultimately play a player at times and where he's at
right.
right next man up, right? The money numbers kind of go up a little bit. So to me, I don't think you're getting him for 17 to 20 million. I think for me, it's going to come into a 22 to 25. I think that's probably where it lands, Lando. 22 to 25 is about where it's going to be. Call it a 4-year deal, 3-year out, right? That's how they do those things. You typically, if they wanted to go that route, sure, the Cowboys would probably love to get a 5-year deal. They always want a 5-year deal.
hmm
Don't know if that happens
those
here. You
players,
get a
they want to get back. They want to
they
get
want to
back
double deal. They want a double bag. They want
back
that
to the
double bag.
table.
Yeah. So I mean, if you get him a 4-year deal, that gets him all the way to 28, if you will, right? He's
Yep.
24 now, 28. 4-year deal. If we do it at let's call it 23 times three fully guaranteed, that side guaranteed, and kind of play with it, maybe somewhere in that ballpark.
And let's also acknowledge, you touched on it a second ago. I meant to expand and I
Mhm.
forgot. But
Go for it.
now Dak's contract, guys. I mean,
Mhm.
this was one of the talking points as well, one of the parallels, right? When you consider the moves that they're making, Dak Prescott will not enter 2028 without another contract extension because of the circumstances, the way that Todd France and his team, boy, uh, held Jerry and them over the fire, if you will. They once again, it was the same situation that they walked into prior to the 2024 campaign.
Right.
Week 1, just before the matchup with the Browns, Dak was entering the final year of his contract. That was never a good idea for the Cowboys to allow him to do that because all the leverage goes bye-bye.
Peace. See you later.
Yeah. So
Facts.
once again, a 4-year extension. George Pickens' last year of his deal is this year, 2025.
Mhm.
That puts him right on par, actually into the 2029
Yep.
year,
Line it up.
right? So,
Yep.
but that's that window that you mentioned, right? You touched on
Mhm.
going for it. That's why you extend Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and create about $50 million in cap space when you didn't have to flip those switches, but you start that clock, right? Because, once again, this is one of my monikers that I live by around here. I try to get people to understand, look, don't listen to the Joneses if they tell you they don't have enough money or enough pie. That's just a bunch of crap.
Right.
The salary cap is always real in the future,
Mhm.
but it ain't real today if you don't want it to be. Ask Howie
That part.
Roseman about that. So,
Shoot, Mickey Loomis even over there in New Orleans.
yeah,
Lord.
facts.
That guy.
Yeah.
Sheesh. They've been supposed to be broke for like 8 years straight now, but somehow, some way, just keep things moving for sure. They'll cost you a guy every once in a while, but yeah, I mean, if you want to keep your guys together, but I mean, that's what it has to be now, right? I mean, where Dak is right now, they flipped. That was my biggest thing that I was really harping on for about 2 weeks after they did it. They didn't really do much with the money. And look, I know they were in on Ward, they were in on Hassan Reddick, they were in on Greenlaw. The money got too high, and I'm just like, man, it's just tough because you freed this money up and you're sitting at 37 million. Like, what are we doing? And now, here we are again. If they go make this, they pull this trigger, they get this thing done and they
Yep.
get the extension. Okay, guys, here we go. I mean, buckle up, right? All right, Dak, Lamb, Perkins, Pickens. All right, man. Next 3-4 years,
Kendrick
here we
Perkins,
are.
boy, out of retirement.
That's a whole nother kind of crash out. Never mind, though.
That's our new right guard right there. Tyler Booker will smell you, brother.
I
Kendrick
mean,
Perkins, right guard. Here we
I
go.
mean, maybe slide him over the right tackle if still ain't coming back around. Neither here
Probably
nor
got
there.
sweet feet.
Oh, for real. But yeah, I mean, you're settling in for the next 3 to 4 years, and now that it frees you up, draft wise to how to complete and get the glue guys for this team, because you've knocked out the major the major holes and the major weapons that you need to have here as you move forward. So, I tell you what, nobody on their bingo card thought about a blue out of University of Texas explosive that he brings to the table. Oh, and by the way,
Mm,
we're going to throw Pickens in this mix as well. But the one thing that I had this conversation with you, and I said, look, I think the defense is a full rebuild. Right. I said, I think the defense is a full rebuild. And some of that's on the overshowing the Diggs injuries and where things are. Obviously, Lewis left, Law left. I mean, so you have like it's more of a rebuild. I said, but offensively, you're just a couple of pieces away. It's not that far off. And you
right.
watch them completely restack the running back room, and they end up here with Pickens tomorrow. My goodness. And you got Booker coming in at 12. Boy, you feel pretty good about this because the one thing I've said from the very beginning, dial up my tweets over there, same thing, your guy Nix, your underscore guy underscore Nix. I said this back in January when they hired him and Eberflus. I said, probably too soon to say this. I was like, but I know where Eberflus came from when it comes to Rob Marinelli and whatnot. And I understand the kind of coach that Schottenheimer is. I said, realistically, not just with the 3-12-5 seasons that we had underneath McCarthy, but if you go back to 14 and 16 and how this team operated, right? You felt like those were the opportunities where you were really the desk catcher, where you were 13 and 3, and then Green Bay gets you. It's like, boy, those teams are doing something. I said, I feel like they're trying to recreate that just, fast forward to 2025. And I think in a lot of ways, in what they've done from that moment on, it's kind of what they've done and what they're trying to get to. So I'm excited for it. Obviously, some of the things that we've talked about in the previous years past, most recently of um, toughness, mental and physical at
Yes.
times. Um, that's something. Do you love football, or do you love what football brings you when it comes to the player? I think absolutely Schottenheimer and this staff has kind of got after it. and and really try to attack the core of that when it comes to this team. And again, the draft for me was a B plus, right? I thought they went BPA. The day two of the draft for me, I said, look, out of the last three drafts, 23, 24, and 25, day two of the 25 draft, singularly the best draft day they've had in the past three drafts. I thought that highly of round two. Um, and man, they stuck to their board. And right, it left a blinking light. We talked about it. There wasn't going to be able to draft everything. There's too many holes. You couldn't draft everything in this draft, right? Is where it landed. But boy, if you come back on the other end now and you come out of that draft and your biggest blinking light is number two wide receiver and you land a Pickens, not much to really complain about. Hey, we'll see you at training camp. Let's go.
That's man. I mean, that's well said. I mean, I'm right there with you too, especially with the draft stuff. That's a completely different discussion, but I'm glad you touched on
Mhm.
it because it wasn't even on my mind to even consider that. This comment here, I might let you take this one, Nix, because I've said my
Okay.
piece at the beginning of this, but let me minimize this here actually so we can.
Okay.
From Dan, 1995. Will Garrison. I
Mhm.
follow people like Nick Harris, Jane Slater, Todd Archer,
Sure.
and Clarence Hill on Cowboys News, and they're usually
Mhm.
good on their reporting.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I say this all the time. Nobody in this game bets 1,000.
Yep.
Nobody. Everybody has their wins and their misses. What you try to do ultimately is be right more times than not, but also be fair enough to understand and admit when you're wrong. And
Absolutely.
that's what kind of carries the weight. I think we saw Nick Harris do that today,
He
right?
did. He
He
did.
came out, talks about it. No, came back. Hey, I take it back.
Here's what we're
Nick Harris,
referring to, Dan. Let me just show you what
wait a
Nix is
minute.
talking about right here. Here's your context for that thought. I'm sorry, Nix, to interrupt you.
John, no, you're good. Go ahead. You know, yeah, we're saying Dan, Will, or I was, but and as you're bringing that up, I mean, even in the draft stuff and talks about, certain things, uh,
Right there.
and just owning
Yep.
it. Right. But that's you follow those people that are able to say in real time and come back and do that. Absolutely is the people you should follow and go about that. When it comes
Hey,
to
and
that,
Clarence will be the first one to tell you. He said no way they're taking O line at 12.
all right, yeah,
He missed, but guess what?
it happens.
He'll miss again. I'm gonna miss again. You're gonna
Mhm.
miss again, Nix. We're
Sure.
all like you said.
All the
Nobody
time.
bats a
No,
thousand
that's
here.
1,000. Nobody
Nobody bats a
does.
thousand. Sometimes we get bad information. Sometimes our
Yep.
feelings come before the facts.
Hmm.
Sometimes we just completely misevaluate something.
Hmm.
Okay, it's okay. But bygones, and we move forward, and we just
Hmm.
are here addressing the tweets, the receipts, and the smoke.
Do let me a good smoke.
There's a lot of smoke, and there's
Yeah,
even
there
some
is a lot of
smoke
smoke.
in the corner up there, directly
Yeah.
above me.
Hmm.
It looks tasty, man. Not gonna lie. Honestly,
Hopefully it's
I probably
hope it's
wouldn't.
a good little victory. Hope it's a good little victory cigar here for
I was just about to say, man, a little victory smoke wouldn't do me a
little
whole lot
victory
of bad
smoke.
right now if we
Yeah,
could
if we,
get this
if
news
we
to
live
drop
this, yeah,
officially.
we get the old picket straight across the finish line. Yeah, man, I'm pretty excited about this. Again, just doing just different. And let's be clear. I mean, hey, side effect,
Yeah,
right? In that
the pillars
the
have
one
changed,
thing,
dude. I've been reporting on this for
sure,
months.
the one thing why. And I need to go back and figure out whose podcast this was because it's not fair to me to mention what Garrett said on this podcast and not have the name of the gentleman in the podcast that it was. And I'm gonna go back and circle back because I know I got a bookmark. I'm gonna get the name of that. So I'll make sure I get it out there on Twitter and give it credit because
There
I've
you
leaned
go.
on that very heavy this offseason in that he asked Garrett, what does it take, whether looking for a head coach, what does it take to be a good, successful coach in Dallas? And what he said was, you have to be a very good communicator. You must be
Mm,
just able to communicate down to the team, right? And let them know what you're trying to accomplish. But you also have to be able to communicate well up to the front office in what you're trying to be in what you're trying to accomplish. And then he went further on to say the years that we really communicated well and we stuck close to what we were trying to accomplish top down is when we had our best years. At times when we waned away from that is whenever we didn't have the best of years. So I kind of go to Schottenheimer from the very outset what he talks about. And for those who have been following me, I said, look, I don't care what they're saying. I'm going to hear what they say, but I'm going to judge the actions on the back end. I'm just day by day. I'm not going too high, too low, just day by day. Some days were good days. Some days wasn't good days, to be honest with you.
Yep.
But very consistent with everything that he said. And then I can point to things that I can see tangible differences in. Like, for instance, and actually, Mike Fisher reported this the week leading up to the draft, right? He reported Schottenheimer banging the table. Hey, we can't do red flags in round two, injury or other. We can't do red flags in round two, right? Because I think we go back and look at it. If Savon Ravel was the pick at 44, nobody here's complaining about it, right? Oh yeah, I mean, shoot, he's a first round pick. We got a cornerback need. That's what we need to do. But they didn't do that, right? It's a Dom Izaraku instead. No red flags though on Izaraku. Now you end up with Revel
None.
anyways. Yeah, you end up with Revel anyways. Obviously at 76, there's the payoff though, because you
That's
didn't
it.
reach. You didn't reach. That's a Schottenheimer move because typically we know what and we did the surgery too on Revel. Oh, come on, kiss the baby. That's pick 44. He's on the
By the way,
board.
for
We
those
need a
who are
corner.
unaware, he's
That's
the one who
pick
performed the
44 right
surgery.
there.
Yep.
That's I look at that. Okay, that's changing and shifting the culture in there with Shuddy, what's going on. And for the Cowboys to go out here and possibly make this move for Pickens, you can't tell me that's also not part of Shoddy in there. No. That works here. He checks the boxes. We'll round that other stuff out because I've moved my guys around. I know what's going on here. I have a little bit of control and I know where these guys are at now and getting after it. So I just think at times throughout and hearing McClay or even Stephen Jones echoing the same verbiage that Shoddy's doing, communicating very well to the team where it's at and setting the temperament, but also communicating upwards too to understand what we're getting after and what we need to do here. So I think from that standpoint, I think Shotty's burning a lot of energy now. I'll be
Yeah.
clear. If I'm worried about anything for Shotty so far, it's like, I hope he's not burning the candle at both ends because I meet with everybody. I'm always saying I'm going to work harder than anybody else. And I think he is doing that. But boy,
That
that's a
head
high
coach and
motor.
play caller title has always been a lot to shoulder, and
Mhm.
it's something that scares a lot of people, rightfully so. But we'll see. He's the
Yeah.
guy who prides himself. He's over and over again adamant about, hey, I know what type of
Mhm.
worker I am. He's like, it's the me versus me mentality, and he's once again he's given us no reasons yet to question his word because everything that he
We'll get
said he's held up to.
We'll get to the X's and O's, and he'll be judged there for sure. There's no ifs, ands, or buts
Absolutely,
about it.
there's
And
there
and
yes,
look,
time and place.
and he's acknowledging. He goes, "I know we're gonna get judged on that. Absolutely." Said it at the rookie mini camp presser, so he
Yep.
understands it.
Sure.
But right now, so far, he's just checked the boxes, and I can't say hey, I got to tip the cap. Hey, I like how he's came here. Maybe I didn't like how the coaching hire process went, but for the staff he's put together, how they've attacked this thing thus far till April, or what we at now, May 7th. I can't. Yeah, man. Good job, man. Maybe even better than anticipated. Even.
Way. I would say way better than anticipated, just given the way that the draft fell, and then also just making sure that you staying true to what you say. Right. Like once again, saying something is one thing, doing something is completely different. And Shotty to this at this current juncture is walking the walk after talking the talk. And that to me speaks volumes. And no, we got comments, interesting stuff over here from Brick. He says trade.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where he's getting this from, but if you got sources, Brick, send them. But he's saying trade went through. It's getting announced in the morning.
Apparently, Pickens' wiki page says he's a cowboy, so there's that as well.
Yeah, isn't that the whole
That's
thing though?
awesome.
Like, so anybody can go in and edit that though, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's how that works. I don't know. I'm just trying to be fair, trying to
I'm
be
excited, man.
objective. Matt's vlog says I'm being dead ass. Pickens winning.
It feels like
It does. No doubt. No doubt.
it's like good karma, man.
And I've seen what's the cat orange whistling thing? Am I missing something there from Sadiqa? She's been saying that
No,
in this chat.
there's no. It's a emoji. It's just in that. I think it's emojis.
Oh, so,
It's
I'm sorry.
emojis. Yeah,
So
but
she's
on the
sending
restream,
emojis,
it
but for
just
some reason it's not
yeah, you
registering.
can't. Right. When you're on restream, you can't see. If you're on the YouTube channel side, you can see it.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
Technology. Yeah, I know.
Anyway,
I
Sadiqa's
found
always
out
in
the
here
hard
hanging
way.
out, so she's one of the real ones supporting me and many others. Man, anytime I'm
Big
listening,
facts.
like I don't get the chance very often, not nearly as much as I would like to consume other people's content. Since
Mhm.
I'm constantly either if I'm not writing, I'm producing video work, so it's just a constant. And if I'm not doing those things, I'm being a dad. But man, tight end for sure. I don't have to think twice about that one. That's my secondary call. 6'4", 240. I got a little bit on me. I could hang for a bit. Maybe not in the trenches over and over again. I'll probably be one of those split tight ends.
Get that Y. You get that Y out there. Yeah, there you go. Like Neville. I see you. Fair weather.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, let me get this off here. Man, producing and speaking on a subject this sensitive at 2 a.m. to 3, it's almost 3 a.m. now.
Brother. It's almost 3.
Ooh.
It's gonna be we're gonna need some of those black rifles in the morning, sir.
I'm gonna send you a toast from afar, my man. No doubt about that.
We're gonna need those tomorrow. Tomorrow's gonna be fun. I got a feeling tomorrow's gonna be fun.
I got my Cage pre-workout on deck right here. This, by the way, y'all, they don't pay me to say this. I wish they would, honestly, but pre-workout sport. It's a little bit lower. It's a little bit lower on the caffeine, but here's the best part. Okay, it triples. It's a 3-headed monster. It's a little bit of caffeine. It's got some vasodilation in there, so it's like actually a pre-workout, right? With the citrulline and arginine and all that stuff. But you also you've got the focus complex of nootropics and the hydration blend to go in there with it. So it's got like your coconut water, of course, your magnesium, potassium, sodium, all that stuff. I'm passionate about health and wellness, man, but I just love like biohacking. Any way that I can find an advantage, whether that be cognitive or physical, I'm gonna do it. And this one checks like numerous boxes for me. So it's like I can't live without it, man. Seriously, I certainly could, but it definitely makes my life easier.
Right? Yeah. Right.
Needless to say, no free shout outs. So that's the last one you're gonna get, Caged. But I do love your product. I appreciate you.
His emails in the bio. Go hit him.
Yeah, come on now. Come on. I do have another while we're here on that topic, I have an exciting announcement to make, and it'll be in the next couple of days. Something I'm passionate about, very humbled by, and excited for. So stay tuned for another product partner specific announcement in the coming days.
There we go.
Yeah. So we're working, man. We're working. Once again, at 3 a.m., you don't got to worry about us, man. We're gonna put the work in. And we're gonna make sure that we're checking all those boxes as far as making sure that we're reporting the objective truth, the sports below the surface truth for the true fan, the people like y'all who are in here hanging out with us. I can't say it enough, man. Just make sure that you hit the like button for us to show us some love for the lack of sleep, the sleep deprivation that is inevitable.
Brother, the East Coast over there at 4 a.m. right now. Shout out to the East Coast in the building.
Some people waking up right around now to be at work by 6. And one of my business partners on the golf side of things, his wake up call is usually about 4:50 to 5 a.m. and he's at work by 6 every day. So that's a different beast. But I got 2 little talking, walking, and pooping alarm clocks that come and jump on me every morning. So either way, man. Either way, make sure I got. Did we cover all the bases, Nix? I know we talked about a lot here, but this has been a fun.
I mean, man. I mean, now we just we sit and wait for the hammer to fall, right? I mean, that's kind of where we are now. I think. Right, plenty of smoke from the Pittsburgh side. A lot of smoke over here on the Cowboys side. Feels like this is going to happen, but like I always say, until it's across the finish line, you never know, right? Anything can happen at any point in time in business. But yeah, this is one of the more things that feels pretty tangible to me, though. It feels like this is definitely going to get done. So, knock on wood. Oh no, well, it's the closest thing I got right now.
I need Vach's. Where's Vach's war call when you need it, man? I need
man, facts. Yeah, and I think the most intriguing thing for me is either way, if it happens or it doesn't happen, the fallout's going to be pretty funny. But I'm hoping for a big day for Cowboys Nation, man. I want the fan base to have something to feel pretty excited about. I think they're cautiously optimistic overall about the draft. But man, if they come out here and land and go ahead and land Pickens as well, man, I think they got this fan base has been in flux for over a year.
Yeah,
I like for them as us to get a dub. And
does this get everybody? Like, does this get Cowboys Nation back in the good graces of Jerry Jones, or Jerry Jones back in the good graces of Cowboys Nation? For most,
somebody just said he won slander Jerry for 8 months. So I don't know if I believe that for a whole 8 months.
That's a long time, bro.
Yeah. But look, it'll buy him some time. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, Jerry sitting at 82. said, "Hey, I had one more bullet in the chamber. Y'all just had to wait. I had to be cautious with it. I couldn't be all in last year. I had to wait for the right moment. It's my last one, and
Yeah,
here we go. So one more, and
man.
if you get it done, it'll be awesome.
I don't have the Watch War call, but I guess this is about as good as it gets. This is
What
my
do we
own little
got?
version right here. This is for Cowboys Nation right now.
Yeah,
We'll see.
that's fine with me.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll see what we wake up to. It feels like Christmas Eve right now. Apologies again if I came off wrong at all to anybody at the beginning. I just had to get that off my chest, man. I've been internalizing it. I'm human. I'm imperfect. I'll make mistakes in the future. But just wanted to
We
make
all
sure that
do,
we were
brother.
clear on that. It's no hard feelings to anybody either way. But listen, just be careful. Know who you're messing with. Know who you're talking
Sure.
about. Especially think twice before you slander somebody else's name. Right? Let's be accurate. Let's be fair. Let's be objective. Uh,
There's a way
and
to
let's
debate or
continue to
disagree.
uncover the truth for the true fan, man. What else you got
Yeah.
next? Any closing thoughts?
I just want to say, and there's a way to debate and have a difference of opinion on something and go
Yeah,
about the right way. As I
sure,
always say, people, I'm not tied to any thought process. I'm fluid, right? Because I
yeah,
get more information, then I might change my mind. So I try
sure,
not to speak in absolutes on things. And I think sometimes we get caught up in too many absolutes. And if somebody has a difference of opinion, and I'm in my absolute over here. Well, you're stupid. You know what you're talking about.
right,
It shouldn't be that way, right? It shouldn't be that way ultimately. There's a way to go about and handle it. And again, what's your point? What's my point? And you can always agree to disagree. And then you
sure.
come back to it and revisit it, right? The idea of transfer information is for us to have some common ground and figure things out. And like I said, I think I've changed people's minds over time, but I think I absolutely say people have changed my minds on subjects over time because I'll listen and get from there. And that's what should be the fun part about this as we go about it, whether you're content creating, fan, media, whatever, no matter what part of the spectrum you're in. Hey, man, sometimes you just got to listen. You never know what you'll get out of it.
That's it, man. I love that. I love that. That's well said. Guys, before we get out of here, it's late. We both need sleep. I'm sure we all need sleep, but
Yeah,
I'm not gonna get out of here, let y'all off the hook without saying it one more time. You see it on your screen right now, your guy
oh,
Nix
man,
on
appreciate you,
Twitter.
brother.
And I believe it's make sure we
Just your
plug
guy
the
Nick's
correct
now on
YouTube
YouTube.
now.
Yeah, just YouTube. Just your guy Nick's on YouTube now.
There
And
you go.
I'm over there doing the Star We as a Star Turns podcast on the same on that channel. So yeah, just find me
There you
anywhere
go.
your guy Nick's. I'm trying to be like Lando. I'm trying to be this TikTok superstar. Not really, but I'm trying.
Hey,
I'm trying these days.
hey
I was
man,
told I
it's
had
it's
to.
just about it's just about consistency. I've actually been experimenting with some other things. I'll talk to you about maybe behind the scenes. Just shoot me a text in
Sounds
case I
good, brother.
forget. But I've
Absolutely.
been doing it the hard way for far too long. So I think I may
Uh,
have found an avenue to sort of streamline and make the process a little bit more efficient. We'll see. But yeah, dude,
cool.
it's
Perfect
just
timing for me. I waited for the right time then.
there it is. There it is. There it is. Okay, the last thing that we got, as always,
Uh,
y'all, cowboyscountry.com. That's where all the written work goes. Right here at the Lando Show on YouTube. There will be more Lando and Nix in the very near future. Maybe even tomorrow. I'm off tomorrow, so tomorrow's one of my
yeah.
work days when my girls are at school. What a great day that would be on a Tuesday or a Wednesday for
Lined
something
up.
like this to
Yeah.
drop, man. Come on.
Big facts,
Come on.
brother. Big
That's
facts.
it.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get some sleep. Who knows? I might be a little bit too excited, but this is a big win, man. We'll see. We'll see what happens. This is only the as they say, you can't win the Super Bowl in the offseason, April, May, June, July,
Hmm.
but you damn sure could lose it.
Absolutely, brother.
You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And I didn't even get to this a second ago. We'll touch on it as we close. This list right here, just start thinking about the most dynamic tandems at receiver in the entire National Football League, and tell me that CeeDee Lamb and DK Metcalf, or I'm sorry, there I go, talking out of my neck again. Tell me that
Close enough.
CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens wouldn't be one of the top five, top three, top three. It's got to be top three.
Yeah.
I
I
went
mean, it's
conservative there
top
at
10. No,
first, but
no
it's
matter
got to be
how,
top
yeah,
three.
no matter how big of a, yeah, no matter if he was a hater, you can't say not top 10.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah. I don't care
I
how
mean,
much
I'm
of a hater
thinking,
you
I'm
are.
thinking Bengals off top, Bengals,
Hmm.
Eagles have a case.
Eagles got a case. Minnesota,
The
Jefferson,
Vikings.
Addison.
I think man, I'm taking CD and George. I think the
Sure.
difference between Jordan Addison more than offsets the difference between, if there is a difference at all, between
What do
Justin
you
and
think about
CD.
Adams? What do you think about Adams and Puka over there for the Rams?
They got a case. I'll have to see. Devontae's 33 now, though, ain't
he? Yeah, 32, 33, somewhere around there now. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a fun conversation, regardless.
Sure.
Top 5 lock. I would say top 3 pretty much.
How about this? When's the last
inarguably.
time we could talk about our wide receiver 10 to being in the top 10, top 5, period?
That's been a
That's
while.
fine. Look, that's see, fun. That's so much fun we can have. We can go frolic and talk about our wide receivers. How great is that?
I still, here's my thing. Here's my last closing statement. I promise we'll get out. I want this approach. I still, because Saudi talking about condensed formations does have some of the similar, the 12, the West Coast tree, I guess the Shanny tree in him. Condense the formation, get CD and George out there, 12 personnel. You got Brevin Spanford, Jake Ferguson, CD Lamb, and George Pickens.
Yeah.
Some of the misdirection, the creativity, the concepts that Clayton Adams is going to bring to the table with the counter and the misdirection and the pin pull and all that type of stuff.
Go play some bully ball. How about it?
Play a little bit of bully ball. That's exactly where I'm going. This does, like, talking about, it's a fine line, because we know how this Cowboys team has been beaten and embarrassed in the past. Their most significant losses in recent history, man. They've had the finesse game down. They could play with the lead. They could not play from behind, because they were the most one-dimensional team on both sides of the football, the most one-dimensional playoff team that I can recall seeing in recent memory. They have to change that. George Pickens, yes, he adds an explosive dynamic. He does provide you maybe a top 3 receiver tandem in the entire National Football League, but maybe more than anything, more than both of those two things, which is part of the Tyler Booker message from me before he was even selected. And now, knowing what we know, if you don't win in the middle of both sides of the line of scrimmage, you don't win in December, and you don't win in January. You have to control the line of scrimmage first, and then you start talking about having some fun on the outside.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's all I got.
Right.
The rest is history. We will wake up, hopefully, feeling like it's Christmas morning again. But until then, y'all get you some sleep. Thanks for being here. And remember that prayer changes things, and the war is already won. Good night, y'all.